Welcome, everyone, to Give a Shift, the podcast you want to be listening to when you want to create radical, positive change in your life. I'm Nancy Leeds-Gribble, one of the co-hosts.
And I'm your other co-host, Alicia Ziegler.
And we are so thrilled to be back. We had a week off, and today we have an amazing guest. We're super excited, and I am going to read your bio a little bit, and then we will get into it. But we have Traver Boehm, and Traver is the author of the books Today I Rise and Man Uncivilized. He's a two-time TEDx speaker, men's coach, and founder of the Uncivilized men's movement. He's helped men all over the world to become uncivilized as they wake up to the power of their hearts, the brilliance of their bodies, and the wisdom of their souls, so they can blaze their own path by uniquely blending both the primal and the divine within them. He is dedicated to doing his part to help end the suffering in men and the suffering caused by men by guiding them through their journey into an actualized version of masculinity. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes, our first male guest.
Thank you for having me both. I appreciate you both.
Oh my gosh. Yes, we are so excited. And I was telling Alicia when I read your bio and then I started reading more and reading more, I'm like, I kind of want to be a man today. and get in this. I loved everything. And your story is amazing. And I think it would be a fabulous place to start.
Okay. We're talking about transformation. Right? We're talking about shifts. We're talking about change. I have found that there's two impetuses, let's call it, that spark the biggest change. The first one is, it's cliche, but it's so true, it's loss. Mm-hmm. I have an ethos tenet for the Uncivilized movement that says that your greatest gifts grow in the garden of your wounds. And we as a culture don't really look that way. We think, something bad happened, let me take some drugs, let me go to a week of therapy and pretend that it's fine, or let me spiritually bypass it and say it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But there's juice in there, Nancy. So that's part A, or point A. That's where most people end up hitting rock bottom, getting divorced, a loss, something, and then boom, they bounce off. Yeah. And that was my story. But before I dive into that, the second one, which I think you're trying to initiate in people, is a conscious decision. I don't have to hit rock bottom. I don't have to have someone walk out on me. I don't have to get sick. I don't have to get cancer. I don't have to go bankrupt. I can actually look at my own trajectory and know, okay, I'm heading downward here. Let me pull a parachute, take a breath, and see what I can do. I didn't do that. I hit rock bottom. So I had the life that most people, it was so cliche to talk about now, but like I had the dream. I was married to the woman of my dreams. We had our first kid on the way. I lived in Santa Barbara, California. I had this incredible business that was making a ton of money that I didn't really have to be at. And if I did go to, I could wear board shorts and no shirt, and I just trained all day. It was a gym. My writing career was just beginning, and then I lost all of that in a very, very short period. My ex had a miscarriage. That was an impetus for a divorce. That led to a business partnership, separation. And my life just stopped for a while. I hit that like awful, not the acute pain of, holy shit, I can't believe this just happened to me. Yeah. Kind of the numb after pain of, okay, now what? Shit, I don't have the pain to rub up against and be like, I'm not in survival mode anymore. But there's this awful space between chapters. And so in that space, I created an idea. And that was, what if I lived an entire year of my life as if it were my last? Because I already feel like I'm fucking dying, or I died, right? And there's a bit more to this. I had actually given a talk when I was still in the business at that gym about how do you use pain as a fuel source. Like, if it's going to happen anyway, you might as well use it.
Yeah.
And there was a woman in the audience who said, pulled me aside after, said, I think you need to give that talk at TED. And I was like, not a chance. I am talking to attorneys. I'm having trouble getting off the couch. I like throw up a lot of mornings. Like, there's no way you're getting me on a stage. He goes, well, think about this. Think about it. Just like plant the seed. And so again, there's some space in between here. And I decided to fill that space by going one night to the Against the Stream Meditation Center, if you know that place in Los Angeles, run by a man named Noah Levine. I go in, there's a meditation, there's a little Dharma talk after, blah, 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 blah. Afterwards, I go pee before coming back to LA or coming back to Santa Barbara. And I walk out of the bathroom, and they have a cork board. And on the cork board, it says the Year to Live program. I was like, what is, oh, I just got chills. I was like,
I did too.
right?
And I wasn't even at the bathroom.
Yeah, they were talking about the right stuff. So this thing grabbed me, and I was like, what is this? I went home, I Googled it, and it was based off of Noah's father had written a book called A Year to Live. And it was a 12-month program for people who actually were going to be dying or were in later stages of life or were acute illness for hospice, etc. And it was, how do you prepare yourself internally for that transition? So it was a lot of meditations, a lot of group work. I called them and was like, hey, just so you know, I'm not dying, but I would love to come take your program. And they said, well, you have to be in LA for a year. Are you willing to do that? And I was like, no, I don't think I want to do that. And it was literally that night that that same woman called me and said, the same woman who asked me to be on TED. And she said, TED LA will take you right now, but here's what you have to commit to. You have to do like a 6 to 8 week empirical study. They don't want philosophy. They don't want theory. So you're going to have to talk about pain and get like a group of people, get them some kind of measurement, like what 0 through 10, what's your pain level, work them through your process, reassess. And I was like, I'm not doing this. It sounds like a lot of science. Again, I'm not in a good place in my life. I can't be responsible for 20 people. I hang up the phone with her.
The universe is like, let me send you a third.
And literally, again, I get the thought, the download, whatever it will be. I call her right back and say, do me a favor, tell TED LA I will be back in a year. And I'm not going to do an internal audit on myself. I'm going to live externally as if it were my last year alive for 12 full months. And I'll tell that story on the stage. And I didn't end up doing TED LA, but that immediately changed my life. That decision to actually go all in, full support. I'm selling my house. I'm getting rid of everything. I'm volunteering in hospice. I'm living in the woods. I'm living in a dark room for a month. I'm meditating. I'm apologizing to my ex. I'm sitting down with my parents. I'm doing all the things that one would do to clear the space for the transition of death. But I'm going to do it at 40, healthy as can be.
Wow.
That set me off on a very different trajectory. And I'll stop there because it led to some other things, but that was a big decision point.
That's a huge, huge decision. And I know both Alicia and I, we can relate to the loss part. And sometimes I personally will think back and go, as horrible as it all was, it turned out to be a gift.
Yeah.
But the decision to, instead of kind of plow your way forward in society and do all the things, you made the conscious decision to back it up.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like what, like really what was in your head? Like, this is what I need to do.
Nancy, it's so hard to articulate. The day my ex-wife left, I remember sitting on the couch, kind of like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is happening. This isn't really happening. Okay, it's happening. And then I hear the voice, don't you dare waste any of this. Now, I'm an ex-cage fighter. I'm a CrossFitter. I'm a relative. Yes, I have a master's in Chinese medicine, but I lean more towards like the meathead side than I do to the, I think someone just talked to me and it may be God side. So I was like, okay, what the heck's going on here? Don't waste what?
Yeah.
And I sat there and thought, okay, I've for a number of years have been unhappy in my position in life. despite having it all out there, I didn't feel good in here.
Mm.
I was anxious. I didn't sleep well. I drank a ton. I smoked a ton of pot. I used a ton of porn. I was an insomniac. I
Mhm.
wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a speaker. I loved my business of teaching people how to swing kettlebells and do squats, but I wanted to affect humans on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And I took all of that and went, what if this is the opening? That first I have to go through this shitty transition or this shitty initiation. I have to pass through a threshold. And maybe on the other side, there's an opportunity. So that was in my head. And I'll tell you quite honestly, most of the advice I got went against that.
Oh, I would imagine.
Right? Go start another gym a mile from here. Half of us will come with you. Date one of your clients. You can be remarried in 6 months, have another baby on the way, get that handled. By the way, can we take you out and get you drunk? Can we take you out and get you laid? That
Right.
was like the bombardment of information, but something inside was like, not a chance.
Well,
I will not waste this.
yeah, and that's kind of the reason that we started this podcast, right? Is because we met at a huge seminar, life changing, all about overcoming trauma and really impacting people. And I always like when I listen to your story and I think about it, I was like, you were coasting. And you were coasting in a space where it wasn't genuine to who you were and who it aligned with you, that it was like, so this is all of the group that's going to keep you at here, this subsurface level. And I'm going to need you to take a plunge to your truth. Like and I don't care if I have to keep hitting you over the head until you get it, but I'm going to knock you out. And then when you stand back up, you're going to be able to give back to the world the exact reason that you're here. And I think that's kind of why we started this, is we were like, there's a lot of coasting going on. And even though people are throwing around words like, oh, trauma, authenticity, or cliche or whatever, but at the end of the day, it is true. Like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. If you stand up, like we are bamboo. You're not going to break. The worst thing that you're programmed for is death. So if you're still here every day, you've got something to give. And I think that's kind of like every time I hear your story and I'm like, every time I see you on Instagram, I'm like, it blows my mind to see where you were to where you are now and be like, talk about a no fucking excuse human. Like, you really had every reason to keep going the path that you were going until you succumbed to pretty much nothing. You could have.
Yeah.
Or really being like, look how gifted you were with the signs of the cork board, the bat, like everything aligned to literally bring you to light. Like, it's pretty phenomenal.
It is wild. I'll share another quick story with you that just happened this weekend that I think this centers around what you guys are getting to, and my arm is just all lit up, is like the depth of your soul speaking to you, right? I had what Stephen Pressfield calls, I think it's the shadow career. Like I got to do the things I wanted to do. I got to write, I got to speak, I got to teach in a very small, safe bubble. But it wasn't what I really wanted. And now, so that bubble gets popped, and I have to drop down deeper to a truth that's not here in my head, even in my heart. It's in my gut. And I'll share with you all that a week after that whole scenario went down, and I'm like a week, 7 days after that happened, and I've told 3 people in my life what is going on. I go back into work. I'm sitting in my gym. There's one man working out in the other room. I don't know him that well. He's a cop. He has odd hours. Like I'm usually 6 a.m. He's usually 9 a.m. Long story short, he comes into my office, stands in front of me and says, "This is going to be odd, but I have a feeling that you're not going to be here for much longer and you're going to go on to do something massive. And I have an idea. I want to start a podcast for law enforcement." And look at my arm. Damn.
I know, me too. I'm getting chills.
Here's the mind fuck of all of this. I'm like, well, what's a podcast? And let's do it. And so we do it. Right now, fast forward to this past weekend. I'm an hour from my house, sitting in the opening circle of a workshop run by my company, but not run by me, headed up by 2 men. One, that very man who walked into my office and said, "I want to start a podcast for law enforcement." And the second guy is the president of my company, who 2 years later was a listener of that podcast
Oh my
Then
gosh.
he reached out to me and asked for some coaching. We became friends. He stuck around. I couldn't get rid of him. He now runs my business. Those two
Wow.
guys led their first workshop
Brilliant.
for law enforcement. I sat there with not a hair, I don't have hair, like on my arms, straight
And that's
up.
you when you're listening.
Going, I cannot believe this is happening. I cannot believe this is happening. 7 years ago, you walked into my office, said this. So yeah, there's synchronicity. I hope people understand this, that when you actually tap down into the deepest level of truth, the level that you have to go through an initiation to find, the level that's not available here in your head, the level that's only available through digging through the muck of your wounds and your shit and your trauma and your hurts. There's a truth there that when you grab hold of it, your entire world will align around you. I have 50 more stories like that since going, okay, you know what? Fuck it. This makes no sense. This is actually illogical. People are going to hate me for doing this. I'm not even qualified. You know what? I'm going to do it anyway. And then boom, 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 boom. All the alignment happened.
And that's
I
the
love
thing
it.
too, right? Like we realize like people are almost feel paralyzed about where to start.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess the starting is in this case, maybe, and you can shine some, light on the subject or how you even came to help specifically men. But I mean, you help people like me because I'm a follower, friend, and a total like super fan. But to really listen to the voice, like how do people decipher? I mean, I know because I'm totally woo and I don't even care, but I'm like, oh, that was a download, or like, oh, you're distracting yourself and here it comes. Like, what is the actual, oh, that is my truth. That is, is it when you're going to pick up the bottle and you say, I shouldn't be doing this? Is it I should be doing this and instead of cleaning my house, like whatever it is. I don't know. How would you help someone find their voice or hear their intuitive?
I won't get too woo-woo with this, but this sentence has an air to it, and that's your soul speaks in whispers. And so that's the thing. I knew years before my ex-wife left that I needed to quit drinking. I knew I wanted to write. I knew I wanted to speak. And then I went through that journey, and then a number of times along the way, there was either a tiny tap on the shoulder, or I remember a woman who led a workshop that I was in pulled me aside afterwards, and she had me work with a guy. So she was a woman. It was primarily a female audience. There's one man there. I worked with him, didn't know what I was doing. And she said, I've never seen anything like that before in my life. You need to work with men. And I went, nah, no thanks. Around for a couple more years. So
Glad you brought it up.
you need to really get quiet, Alicia.
Yeah.
And also, does it scare the shit out of you? Because I do remember the day, it was someone who I actually went to that summit with that you may have met, telling him my idea of like, hey, I want to take the primal and the divine and masculinity and put it together. I'm going to call it this. Here are some ideas. I talked to him for about a half an hour, 45 minutes. And he was dead silent on the phone after, which my brain was like, oh God, he hates my idea. He thinks this is stupid. He doesn't know how to tell me this. He spends about 30 seconds saying, do you have any idea how profound this could be for the planet and how profoundly it's going to change your life? Are you ready for that? I got in bed, pulled the covers over my head, and for about 24 hours was like, not doing it, not doing it, not doing it, not doing it. You know what? Kettlebell swings sound great right now. People, no one's going to be upset with like my life. I can see the easy road.
Yeah.
And then had to come to terms, like literal terms with, you know what? I don't care what happens to me. This isn't about me. It's not my genius. I am the vehicle for whatever needs to come through right now. I accept that position. So I think there's also that, right? I wasn't going, gosh, you know what? I'm going to make so much money. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I'm probably going to be famous. I'm going to have a supermodel wife. That's going to be so hard. I'll have 5 cars. I was like, I'm going to be canceled most likely. I'm going to end up broke. No one wants to read this stuff. No one wants to hear this stuff. That's truth.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people who are like, God, give me a sign. He's like, ooh, 8-figure income, Just work.
Never.
By the way, you're going to drop down to 6% body fat and put 15 pounds of muscle on. Like, are you sure you want
I can help with that.
Right? I don't think that's how it works. And it's often, if I say this to so many people, you probably don't think you can do it. I didn't think I could do it. I had to grow slowly into the position where I could actually make an impact. But there were all of these little signs, Alicia, along the way.
Yeah.
The universe was like, boop, boop, boop. Here's a little pat on the butt. Oh, I'm going to quit because I have no money. Oh, I just got an email from someone who said my Instagram post saved his life. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, shit, I'll go another day. Okay, I'm living in my buddy's house. I got to get a fucking job. What am I going to do? Oh, someone asked me to come speak at their event 2 months from now. Boop, 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 like a little pat on the butt.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's actually the right way. I don't know a lot of people who are doing what they're supposed to be doing who go, oh, yeah, the easiest road out.
Yeah.
No.
Not a thing. I just woke up one day to checks in the mailbox, It was great.
Yeah. No, not if it's really, really deeply what you want to do. It's a hard road. And on the road, right? Like you have to pivot, you have to adjust. You might go down one path and be like, that path isn't really, like, I'm not feeling it. And I know both Alicia and I, we talk a lot, like we, the parts that we need to burn down and the parts where we need to like have our own true voice come out and be. But it is, right, not just for women, for men too. It's sometimes scary to go out of the comfort zone, or you go out and then you're like, and then, oh, my mortgage is due and I have a family. I have to come back in here. So I think I'll be curious, like how you navigate that with the men you work with. But I would love, if it's okay, if we backtrack just a tad. I would love to hear just kind of the takeaways of your year. I think that's an amazing journey. And I know we don't have all day and I'm sure it's a lot of things, but like that you were able to do that. And when you were saying all the people that were saying, no, do this, do that, it's like all the external, right? Getting thrown at you, like just do the job, do the drinking, do this, get the wife. And you're like, nope. I got to do the internal, and I'm going to figure that out for a year. In that year, like what were the major things that were shifts for you that were like, yes, this was the right thing. This is the right thing, or maybe not the right thing, but what feels true to my soul.
That's a great question. I truly found my heart. Right? I had built a life from my ego, not what I really wanted. I found value in who I was with no accomplishment. Right? I volunteered in hospice for a year. No one there gave a flying fuck what my deadlift was, how much money I made, like what degrees I had on my wall. They just wanted to know, like, are you actually here in the room with me, or are you somewhere else?
Yeah.
If you are here in the room with me, this is the single greatest gift you can give me. That's enough, right? I spent so much time with myself. I actually figured out who the hell I was. I actually found out that I liked myself. These sound profoundly, not simple, but like it sounds like a Hallmark movie, but it was true.
Yeah.
I had to go through the falling apart of my marriage, the ending of my marriage, living on the road, living in Airbnbs, staying in, in just weird situations, being completely rootless. But the central theme of the whole thing was, I'm here, and I'm here with me. Whether I'm eating in a restaurant alone, or whether I'm holding someone's hand the night before they die. Right? I'm going to do some hard things. I did a month-long survival course where we can talk about the month in the dark. It was profoundly intimate year. Profoundly intimate year. And I get it. Like, I was very blessed that I didn't have kids. I don't just want to say it's a blessing to not have kids. But you guys get the situation was I didn't have a family that I needed to go back to. I had just sold a business, so I had a paycheck for a year. There was a lot that allowed that process to happen.
A little less responsibility to.
I got to play. But here's the thing. I didn't want to do. I would always ask people this question, like, well, what would you do if it was your last year alive? And the
Get busy.
right? Like, and then I'd say, like, okay, after you've had like the stupid Coke fueled threesome that you want to tell me about, or whatever your
Right.
ego says that you want to do, I asked people for a year, Nancy, and some of the answers would absolutely like make me sob.
Yeah.
It would be like, I would leave my marriage, I would go back to school, I would pick up the guitar, I would spend more time with my kids. It was like this every day. Remember, I came out of hardcore masculine athletics,
Yeah.
like that world, and suddenly fell in love with people.
Yeah.
Not falling in love as in romantic, but like all your stories are
Oh, yeah.
right. It was a year to like fill up with juice and realize like this is who I am. I can do really hard things. I can be there for people in the worst of times and keep my shit together. I can heal. I can have like brutally hard conversations. I can apologize. Like I found my own humanity and got to touch the humanity of everybody I was with, and that was the greatest gift of that year.
Which
Oh
is
my gosh.
like, that's
Amazing.
the courses that you run, right? Like your retreats. That's the whole crux of it.
Yeah, for a lot of them, yeah. It's I do a lot of men's only work where it's like, how do we get you in touch with who you actually are? There's conditioning, there's patterning, there's trauma, there's ego, there's all these things, but we have these guys walk in one way and walk out going, yeah, I know what's important to me now.
Brilliant.
Yeah. You get them thinking.
You get them feeling.
And a feeling, yes.
They
Yes.
don't think. They don't know how to feel. And I think that's most people. To answer Alicia's original question, you're not going to think your way through this. You're going to have to feel your way through. What is my calling? Why am I here? What are my heart whispers? Like, you got to feel that stuff. And a lot of it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to be, are you going to do it? Like, I'm aggressive. I think it was really good to have like an MMA background.
Where's my
right? Because it was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go for this.
Yeah.
I get this little whisper. I'm going to take it on. I don't care. I've fought in front of people. I've had my ass kicked in front of people. It's not going to be harder than that.
Yeah.
It may be, because it's a hard road, but the satisfaction will be primary. Does that make sense? Like the satisfaction won't be here. It won't be fleeting.
Right.
I can think about the men that I encountered and women in hospice right now and start crying. They've left that much of a mark on my heart and soul. I don't remember things like numbers that make me have that feeling.
Right.
I can't think my way into an emotion, but those, I don't know how else to say it. I'm fumbling.
No, I think
not at all.
Poetic. I think it's a big deal, right? Like, that I'm an actor, right? I don't think my way through my job.
Exactly.
You don't turn on a television show so you can watch me think. You turn on a television show so you can watch me feel, so that you can identify with that feeling. And I think that what you do is create a safe space and container for people to process what they're thinking into feeling. Mm-hmm. And then that resonates. And then that feeling has a domino effect on everybody in their lives, the people around them. And it allows them to have permission to say, yeah, this marriage doesn't feel right. Yeah. This job doesn't feel right. And they get realigned with their gut, their universe, their God, that, the direct connect, and they start to kind of relive their life and their purpose and find their passion again. And then they become who they're supposed to be without the, everybody kind of trapping them into, like you said, like the ego or whatever the job is, or the outside circumstances, or social media, or whatever they think they're supposed to be doing instead of feeling. And that's why I think what you do is so big, because even your book his book is beautiful. I don't know if you had a chance to kind of like scroll through it, but it's stunning. And each page, I love that, you chose an ape.
A gorilla, right?
Yeah. There's so many big, powerful messages in that. Like, even taking that on, how many times did you say no to writing? Right?
Yeah, I wrote that at a time when it wasn't okay to be writing to men, right? It really wasn't okay. And I was fully prepared to go down some hard roads with that book. And I'm very fortunate that, some people were upset in the beginning, but you know what? People are going to be upset no matter what.
Right.
But that was the call. And that's really what I hope people listening take away. that you just have to get quiet enough to hear it. I see this in workshops all the time. You're like, well, I don't really know what I want to do. I'm like, cool, you're just not willing to accept the answer yet, or you're not willing to hear it yet because it's going to reorganize your external life. And I get it. That's expensive, energetically, emotionally, financially. It's tough to go, okay, if I believe this to be true, then all of this other stuff has to now change.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to ask.
That's a lot, and it's very scary. And so if someone like gets it, they're like, I want to make changes, but they can't go in and make sweeping changes. Like their lifestyle just doesn't allow it. Like how do you recommend they start, and how do they keep that feeling moving when they don't have you by their side every single day, right? Like they have to find that internal themselves to keep going when life might be like, no, go back here, maybe something like that.
I think there's two ways to answer this question, Nancy. I have so often seen that once that truth has been put upon, it doesn't take very long for someone's entire external life to begin to reorganize itself like that, like in an instant. I've had so many people on a Thursday, like, you know what? It's true. I don't want to be at my job. And they get fired Monday morning, right? Or I don't really think I want to be in this marriage. And they find out a day later their partner's cheating on them or something. Like your psyche is really, really powerful. It'll be like, okay, not a worry. I got this one. Here we go. Let's call in a car accident, a divorce, bankruptcy, and alopecia. Okay, ready to go? All right, here you're going to go. You're going to be the bald podcaster. Let's do it. So that's part A. I almost tell people, like, be careful. Be careful what you speak into.
Yeah.
That was me. The night before my ex-wife left, I wrote in a journal, like, I'm not setting New Year's goals this year until I figure out until I get sober and find my voice. 12 hours later, I found out I was getting divorced. Now that's the like smash and grab way. The other way is you just start.
Yeah.
You just start doing little things. You start writing on napkins. You start sketching out ideas. You start talking to people who are doing the thing that you do. You start going to workshops. You start going to conferences. You start reading blogs. You just get some material together. You don't have enough to actually have an actual thing in your hand. But that's how we start to get the ball rolling. I had people all the time during that year project like, well, I can't. I have kids. I can't. I'm responsible to businesses. I have a parent. I'm like, cool, but you just told me you wanted to be an artist and you don't make any art. You don't have to flush your life down the toilet and become an artist.
Right.
But you better this weekend go to Michael's and get an easel and some paint and start doing some shit.
Yes.
I also believe in the opening time of windows. And we make these decisions. It's like, oh, there's a great big window that just got opened. And it will close. You don't get to have an idea of what you want to do with your life forever. I think that there actually is an opening and closing of a time period. It will reopen. But most of the time, it may be years, or it may actually take, okay, it took that parent passing. It took that accident. It took that injury. And so in order to not have to wait, you just got to start. You just got to start.
Yeah.
I think that's the best advice I can give. Like, start, people. Like, you have no idea the power of momentum.
That we say it all the time. People are like, what do I do? Like, just start. The how will work itself out, right? Like,
there's so much magic. I know there's like a famous quote that I do not remember, like something along the lines of like, when you're fully committed, Providence moves on your behalf.
It's true.
And I can't tell you, again, I have 50 more stories, like I said, with the two guys who I talked about earlier, of how many people came into my life, changed my life, had conversations that reorganized this course, that set it just in the right space. Alicia, when I met you, it was at that event that I had come to that event as a, quote, divorce coach. That's what I was doing for like 3 weeks. Right. And I told people at that event, oh, I'm a divorce coach, and I would get a stomach ache. And that was actually, it was that event and those tummy aches being like, that's not how like alignment feels. And I went home from that event and was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm sick of running from working with men. I'm sick of hiding from working with men. I'm going to actually can do this. Come hell or high water. Let's see what happens. So and then I put one post out on Instagram. Hey guys, I have an idea. What do you think about this? Boom. Here we are 5 years later. I have a staff of almost 14.
Wow.
Writing another book. There's workshops all over the world. There's courses, there's swag, there's branding. It's a thing. But it took that first step. Yeah. I would also love to add, since you guys you brought up, Nancy, of just starting. This is an idea I took from a woman named Amber Hawken, if you know her. The invisible step theory. My divorce coaching was the invisible step. It wasn't the right step, but it was the step that got me high enough to see, okay, this isn't what I want to do. I want to do what's over there. Had I done nothing, I don't think I would have even I wouldn't be where I am now. I had to actually put a stake in the ground and go, okay, cool, I'm doing this. This is who I am. At home, I changed my Instagram. I was like, I'm a divorce coach. I'm a divorce. It wasn't the right step, but it was a step.
Yeah, I love that.
Fear, they're like, well, what if I take the wrong step? I'm like, I don't think you're locked into this thing for life.
Yeah.
It's not like here we are 7 years later. I'm like, you guys, I really want to work with men. But I did make this one decision back in 2018. I don't know. I just can't shake it,
Right. And just so that our listeners know, for some people, it could be an invisible staircase. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
but it's taking action, right? That's the whole. I say it all the time, and Alicia has it. We say the same thing in different ways, and I'm like, we have to get off the sidelines of our own life. We have to. The star of your life is you. It's not a dress rehearsal, and you have to figure it out. And we'll joke in my house sometimes. I'm like, I just keep face planting my way forward. Here I go. I'm tripping on the invisible steps, is what it feels like.
I face planted on a couple of invisible steps.
But when something aligns, and Alicia knows it. And the way we met, the universe opened up, and my happiest is here, like in our podcast. And so, you're like moving in right directions. And there's other things, but it's take the step. Don't be the action. You have to, otherwise the regret, right? You held so many hands in hospice, and no one is saying, I regret, the business or the things. It's like the things I didn't do that I said I wanted to do or be, or who I wanted to be, instead of doing, being instead of a human doing, a human being, which is where you started. Like, you learned to love yourself being you.
And I learned on that year to fully embrace uncertainty. Like, I literally didn't know what was going to happen a lot of days, from day to day to day. I didn't know where I was going to stay a lot of times. And I'm a class A control freak. So dealing with uncertainty.
We don't relate.
Right? I'm dealing with, I know it's again a cliche word, but surrender. Like, okay, there is some reason why this is happening. There is something going on here. I feel that I'm being guided and pulled and pushed without my control.
Yeah.
And that was very, very new for me. And so that combination, like, we're talking about spiritual stuff here. Yeah. I know that word may freak people out, but when you can't, it's bigger than your thoughts, and it's bigger than what you can control. I put it in that realm. And to fully access that realm, you got to let go of some shit. Yeah. And be willing to shift, and be willing to change, and be willing to say, you know what, that didn't feel good. I don't like that. Or to be honest, like, I'm just scared. And that's okay. I'm just scared. And if that's,
and admit it, right? Yeah.
That totally fine. So much of the process I've had to go through was saying, like, I messed up. Hey guys, this wasn't right. Hey, totally fucked this up. Sorry. Hey team, made a mistake here. We tried, it didn't work. Sorry about that. The humanity element, again, coming back in. You're not supposed to have all the answers here. It would be no fun if you did. I apologize for my lighting too.
It's freeing though. I mean, just listening to you and kind of thinking about that, you can feel the weight kind of coming off. Like, I really am surrendering to it, and I'm, obviously, it's responsibilities, but like surrendering to just allowing it to happen, allowing the mistakes to be. It doesn't mean anything other than you tried something, right? And the people that are like, I've never made a mistake. Well, have you lived? Like, right? But I feel like everything you're saying, when the men start working with you, especially, I know it's for a lot for women now too, but men, right? The ego, and then we have to do this and we have to present in this way all the time.
Yeah.
And then you come out and you're like, we're going to present this way, and
Yeah.
we're going to lead with our heart. And I loved what you said. I have to read it. The brilliance of their bodies. I love that. And the power of their hearts and the wisdom of their souls, like helping men or working with men to bring all that together instead of just this surface ego. I have to be a provider. I have to this, I have to that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
There's a depth to it that a lot of guys have trouble accessing, and I understand why. We have every possible distraction known to man, now even non-known to man with AI, to keep us up in our heads, to keep us out of our bodies, to keep us from asking these really deep questions, which will reorganize your life of how do I serve? What do I want to leave behind me as a legacy? What actually matters to me? Right? Like these are great questions, especially for that midlife point. I was 40 when all of this hit. If that had hit at 22, would have bounced back. I'd be like, you know what? Maybe I will open another gym, go find another woman, start over.
Yeah.
There was something magical about being halfway that went, I really want to engage with these questions. These very, very fruitful, nutrient-dense spiritual questions. Because making money's easy. I'm sorry, it just is. Having a lot of sex for many people, it's just easy.
Yeah.
We don't walk away from those experiences going, wow, that's what it's like to be human.
Right.
But
Right? I get it. It takes a certain amount of it, but at some point, you're like, I want something deeper. I want something.
Yeah, which, to the point of the money and the sex and all that, that is why some people who have a lot of money and have a lot of sex and seem to have all the things, are committing suicide, are drinking their way into oblivion, or doing drugs because of that void
Right.
of just the constant filling with the external, and not taking the time, or not even, not even knowing how to take the time to do it. So thank goodness you're here
Yeah, thank you.
to serve and be you. And especially the way the world is now, like we need such a coming together in all the realms. And I love where you said the primal and the divine. We need men to be men, and then we need their hearts too, right?
We definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's especially now. This type of work, I will say to you guys without apology, like you're gonna start listening to a deeper truth, you're gonna have to go fuck some shit up. Like you better be strong. You can't lose the primal. Otherwise, you'll just get bowled over. You will get eaten alive by a society that says, no. We're gonna put you back in that box. So you have to be rooted. You have to be grounded. You have to be strong. And it helps us, our species, men like to be physically strong.
Yeah.
And then there's a disconnect so often upward of, am I willing to listen to something bigger than me? I don't care what you call it, and I don't care who you pray to. But there's something going on outside my doors that I've had nothing to do with since the beginning of time. Right? I wasn't like, okay, control freak, I'll make the sun rise today. I'll make some wind blow. I'll make the birds do this thing. All that shit's been going on since long before I was here and long after I am here.
I learned that lesson too, Traver.
So when I can get guys to go, hey, the current messaging says pick one or the other. Now I want you to reject that messaging, and I want you to have a hand on both.
Sexy.
Because
That's a
they
set move.
feed each other, right? The divine to me feeds the primal. I'll take guys in a workshop, draw a line down a whiteboard, and say, tell me what you think are primal activities. And they'll list a bunch. Okay, cool. Tell me what it means to be a divine activity. And they'll list a bunch. And then we'll work them through a process. And then at the end go, do you think we can swap these lists? And they all know, oh, I get it. Okay, you can make very primal, aggressive activities into something spiritual and connected. Anybody who's had great sex knows this. Anybody who's eaten a great meal knows this. Anybody who's spent an hour on a meditation mat knows that's pretty much like a fist fight. You're going to go in there and get beat up a little bit if you do that. You want to, if it's not, spend another hour, right? So these two elements, these two energies are in men, and the disconnection from one or the other leads to a certain set of challenges. The disconnection from both, when we talk about the collapse of men, suicide, addiction, all of the challenges, that's when they've let go of both. They don't have access to either.
So 2024 is going to be a big year for you. I'm
Yeah.
feeling it, huh? You got some good stuff in the works. Another book, you said.
Yeah, I'm writing a book about my month in the dark. Yeah, I'm finally telling that story.
That's
And
brilliant.
were you really in that dome for a month?
Yeah.
By yourself?
I'm trying to figure out, how do I get this one little bit of sunlight off of this?
Right there. Perfect.
Thank you.
You're glowy.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, I was in there by myself for a month.
Now, did you never left?
I never left.
Oh, wow.
Someone
And
brought me
no light?
zero light. Zero.
Could you, I know you're going to put it all in the book, a sneak peek into what the month was like?
I can tell you all kinds of things.
Oh, tell us
it
one or
was-
two.
Nancy.
Think of it this way, Nancy. Imagine if right now you had nothing but your inner life as a distraction. You literally couldn't see, right? You have no music, no books, no people. You have your body and your mind, which after a couple days is going to start to go crazy. Truly.
Yeah.
Now, think of what journey would it take you on? And here's a piece that I may be jumping a couple levels here, but I've talked about this recently because it's affected me. Darkness is an element. If I have you right now close your eyes, there's still light outside of your eyelids. Like the room you're in is lit.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a different experience than to be fully immersed in darkness. When that actual, just like being underwater, right? If I give you goggles and put water in them, you'd be like, well, there's air outside of the goggles. But if I put you 50 feet underwater or 25 miles underwater, water is going to get in every crevice, every crack, every part of your being. That will affect you. So being encased in darkness for a month, it took me on its own ride. It had me confront death. It had me confront my past. It had me confront grief in ways I can't even explain. It had me look at every time in my life I betrayed myself, every time I abandoned myself. I had conversations live and back and forth with people who were not in that room physically. It was a trip upon a trip upon a trip. And if we come back to intimacy, scary word for a lot of people, especially my people, it was just me, with me. All right, bad shit's happening right now in my head. What are we going to do about it? Okay, I want to throw up, cry, punch a hole in the wall, scream. Okay, I'm here with you. Okay, I want to laugh. I just had an orgasm. What do I do now? Okay, I'm here with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a PhD in self-intimacy.
Wow.
There was nothing else. There was no Facebook. There was no Instagram. There was no phone. There was literally no other distraction. Literally nothing. To give you just a small taste of it.
Crazy. When you, I imagine all the sensations when you came out, did it feel like sensory overload all of a sudden of the way our society is with bombarding, we're bombarded with everything on social media and all the different, did you like just flow right back into it, or you were like, nope, not going there? I know like social and stuff for work, but like, it's such a distraction.
That I was living in an ashram for it. So I was in the jungle in Guatemala. So it wasn't like I did it in Vegas.
Yeah.
Popped right out. So I was actually craving interaction.
Yeah.
The people who ran the ashram were like, be very careful. Conversations will feel very overwhelming. Mm. But I ran right up to people and like, tell me about you. Tell me about your life. Tell me about what happened in the last month. What I missed. And I think I had a bit of, not denial, But I remember someone asking me a week or so later, what was it like? And I was like, what was what like? Like the month you just spent in fucking pitch black darkness. It's like, oh yeah, that thing. It was odd. Yeah, you know? And it took me a couple months of talking about it, writing about it, feeling it before it actually re-emerged and how do I say it, reintegrated itself with me. So
Yeah.
no, I wasn't like overwhelmed, but again, I was living in the jungle.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I will say this, another, not to sidetrack us, I did a month-long outdoor survival course. I lived in the woods for a month with very, very little stuff. And coming out of that was wildly overwhelming. Walked around Whole Foods 48 hours later, after losing 25 pounds, after eating only what we could kill, etc. It was very, very sparse experience and going, this is all fucking bullshit. This is all nonsense. Like, we don't need any of this. Yeah, it was that was more of a trip than coming out of the dark.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you were saying that you were in the dark, it was making me think of my own life and my own trauma. Sure. And how I spent up until from the age of 10 with my dad's murder to 30, telling everybody in a nanosecond when they're like, oh, and I'm like, I'm fine. So tell me about you. I spent 20 years in the dark. And then she told me at 30, did you know that you suffered from PTSD? And then everything felt like I was living in survival in the woods. And I was like, oh, they want to talk. I don't know if I want to. Oh, okay. Like, I had my circumstance feels like that. Like I felt like that. Like I was living in deprivation. Yeah. I wasn't, obviously. I was doing all the control freak, trying to fix my life the best way I knew how from 10 to 30. But then after 30, it felt like I was walking around Whole Foods going, this is all bullshit. Yeah. And now what do we do? Because life is like way bigger than $7.99 for dried plantains. Like, we have life to be living and doing that we're not doing. And everybody like, wake up, like, come on, we got to we're in this together. Get out of the jungle. Right? Like we're surviving, but we're not. And so I wonder if there's like this weird trigger in your head if you're going to put it in the book where you have that comparison of like the survival element of being in that realm versus being in deprivation, like a deprivation tank.
I think what's hard to hold, so I'll answer it perhaps in a different way, is coming out of survival, it begs a lot of questions. Like, what do we do now? And what actually matters? And does any of this matter? Right. Because we spend so much time in survival. So one of the big pieces was, it was so unique, or not unique, but heaven sent, that I worked with people who were dying up until the day I went into the dark. And so it was a giant experience of death. And for a couple of days in the dark, I actually wasn't sure if I was alive or dead. I hadn't, imagine like I'm day 24, 25, I've lost a bunch of weight, I can't sleep, I've gone nuts 5 or 6 times. It was like, I may be dead. This may all be what happens after you die. And I'm here. I've done that thing. Wow, this is the afterlife. Or none of it was ever real anyway. It was like a little bit bonkers.
Yeah.
The challenge of that was recognizing I am alive, but this is what death actually will be. The world will go on. People will still be getting married, having babies on Facebook. There will be wars. They're like, I'm actually not that important. And that's in my left hand. My right hand is, holy shit, that means I'm going to have a clear slate, a clean slate, 30, 40, 20, whenever this thing happens, whenever I do actually die. So I'm free to actually hit home runs and try to knock it out of the park, write, speak, build like a man possessed who doesn't actually care what happens to him. And does any of it really matter? Because it's not going to be remembered for much longer after I go. So it's this weird conundrum, I think, for people, Alicia, who have had that same awakening of, wow, everything is so important. Let's suck the marrow out of life, create as much intimacy as we possibly. I want every damn moment of my life to be orgasmic. And none of it really matters, does it? And that's
No.
the like, well, it's the tension of those two opposites
Right.
that a lot of people have to navigate.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing, right? And being unconscious to that is, I think, both safe, so a lot of people choose it, but it has its own hurt, which is why so many people are on antidepressants and addicted and upset and not well, diseased.
Right.
Because they feel it in their guts, but they can't articulate it or say it, because if they actually did, they'd have to change their damn lives.
Well,
So I know I didn't quite answer your question in the way
No,
you
I
asked.
think you did. I mean, I think you let it right up to
Yeah.
disconnect. You teed it up for the disease is disconnect from the feeling, right? Like we think that it needs to be so important, but the feeling of just being present to this moment does matter. And then after we go, it's okay, because this is our moment to share, right? And share and help somebody along the way. And I think that's the thing that we forget, is that people want to make it so important right now, but it's like, but we're supposed to be living for right now. So if we can elevate this feeling and this moment and this connect, then we're good. Like that's what matters. If we all die tomorrow, we offered something today to ourselves and to the world, right?
It's the offering to life, the ripples. I want to make as many ripples as possible. Just even the challenge with that is you hardly know when the ones that you're making are actually happening. Cool, wrote a book that made some ripples, but it's getting emails from people like, hey, this thing you said 3 years ago. Did I say that? Sitting on the toilet.
Was that Traver 2.0?
You know? So yeah, I feel you. It is the present moment. It is the offering to life as an entity itself, just like the darkness is an entity, life is an entity. But this is high level stuff that we're speaking about, where a lot of you have to go through all of these initiations of those sleepless nights, the hurt, the ache, the what am I doing, the quote insanity, to break through and get to a point where you can actually acknowledge, oh, this whole thing is a fucking weird game.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. Yeah. And live it and figure out what it is you really want to be doing, that you love, that aligns with your soul, because it's one shot, unless you go into a cave for 30 days. It could be 2 shots. But it's really one shot. I am fascinated. I have found myself leaning in more and more, like I just want more. I cannot wait for my husband to get his hands on your books, for the other men. I'm very excited for meeting you today. And women read your books, right? I mean, I know it goes to men, but
women with fierce masculine.
I think it's fast. I think
or women who want to better understand men, right? I think that's a biggie too. I've had a number of women reach out and go, "Oh, I think I understand you guys a bit better now."
He also has a beautiful partner that has helped bring in some softer feminine sides, that has also allowed us to kind of sneak peek into that very unique, special type of relationship. So Aaron's helped.
Yeah.
Give us an invitation.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I think we could go on forever, but we know everybody has to do their thing. So how, I know I'm going to apologize on the upfront that I continually butcher your name. I'm sorry. I keep saying it wrong. Like, what is the disconnect, Nancy? Get a grip on that. But how can people find you, your books, follow you, all the fabulous things?
Beautiful. Yeah. My first book is called Today I Rise. The book for men is Man Uncivilized. Get both of them on Amazon, or head to my website, manuncivilized.com. I have a podcast called the Uncivilized Podcast, and I'm on Instagram at Traver Boehm, which is TraverBoehm. And I would love to hear from any of your listeners who had something in this episode grab them. Hit me up on Instagram. I love talking to people. Love hearing your stories, hearing how this has affected you. And if there's any way that I can be of service, please let me know.
Fantastic.
I adore you. I love my friend.
Thank you.
I love her friend too.
Thank you so much for all you do. I'm so excited to have you on.
All right. Thank
Thank you.
you.